Hello. Hello. My name is Julie. Welcome to the channel, Woman at the Well. Okay, so today in this video, we are going to continue our book, The Way of the Warrior, and we are learning the ancient path to inner peace. We are starting Code 6 today, and it's called The Warrior Harnesses Their Strength. And the only thing I highlighted from our last read was at the very end. And I highlighted the part where we read, "You cannot own the moment if you do not take ownership. The warrior may never own anything but is responsible for the things that matter most. This is the way of the warrior." And I also highlighted this too. Failure is an inevitable ingredient of success. So failure is going to happen. It's an ingredient of success. You probably just heard my dryer buzzer go off. I hate that thing. It's so loud and it just jars you. My son says the same thing. He's like, I try to catch it before it goes off, but sometimes I don't. And when it does, I'm like, whoa. He also has an alarm on his washer. Something about if the water's filled up too much, an alarm goes off. I've never known that to be in an apartment complex before, but he has the double stack, like the little twin, or the dryer and the washer on the bottom. And it's so small. You can only do like little loads at a time. But man, that thing can buzz. It is loud. It scared me twice today. Okay, so as that buzzer went off, I was highlighting some things from our last read. So I'm going to start Code 6 today. The warrior harnesses their strength, and we'll see how far we get within 15 minutes of the video. Now, I ate some food and I drank my water. But you know what? My brain is still foggy and I'm still having a hard time with my thoughts and getting them out verbally. And this happens to me once in a while, and I feel like it's an autistic thing. I'm a little bit overwhelmed at the moment. I have a lot of things coming up in the next week, and so I feel like that's probably what's causing it. Whenever I'm overwhelmed, I have a hard time with my speech. And one time, I'll tell you this, one time we went to the Hoover Dam, my husband and I, and we brought our dog with us. And, well, we had to bring our dog because we were on this little road trip where we went up to the Hoover Dam and then we went all the way around and back down, and we stayed in Lake Havasu for a night and then went back home. So we couldn't leave our dog home alone that long. So he came with us to the Hoover Dam, and we've never been there. And let me just say, you don't want to bring your dog. There's a lot of stairs and a lot of people, and I did not see one person there with a dog. We were like the only ones, but it's okay because we didn't really get out and walk around. We just kind of parked in one of the parking lots and went over to like the first lookout that we could find without having to go down any stairs, and we got to see, parts of it. We didn't get to do any tours or anything like that, but the reason I'm telling you about the Hoover Dam is because when we pulled into the Hoover Dam, where it's busy with all the people, we were just about to go over the dam itself. It's kind of like a bridge, I guess you could call it. There were so many people, and my husband kept asking me questions like, where should I park? What do you want to do? What about this? What about that? And I was just like, and I all of a sudden went mute. He was like, are you not going to answer me? And I was like, I couldn't talk. I could not talk. I was so overwhelmed. No words came out. So that's how I know that when I'm overwhelmed, it affects my speech. I should be okay to read, but as far as just talking like this, if I'm not telling you a story or saying anything with a purpose, I'll stagger all over my words. I can't just do any small chit chats. I have to talk with a purpose or read. I either have to tell a story, talk with a purpose or read. I can't just, I mean, when I'm forced to chit chat with people, it's so exhausting. I can't do it anymore. I used to be able to be pretty good at it because I could mask pretty well. But nowadays I can't do it. My husband's a talker, and he attracts a lot of people to our travel trailer in the RV resort, and especially during the winter when everyone's down from up north or wherever they come from. So we always have a lot of visitors over, of course outside, like in the gazebo in the sitting area. But I must look like the biggest snob because I don't really join in on the socializing. Not because I don't like people, it's because I can't. It's because it's very hard for me. It's very exhausting for me. I will go out once in a while, and I do feel the most comfortable going out there when my son is there. Isn't that interesting? My son is like my safe person, without putting all that responsibility on my child. He's a grown child though, but still, I've told him before, I said, I always feel most comfortable when you're around me. And there's just certain people that, I think I've read this before too, that in autism, there's just certain things and certain people that autistic people will gravitate towards. And once they find that one safe thing or person, it's like they latch on to them, and that's their like docking area. And that's how it feels like with my son as far as a safe person. My husband should be a safe person, but he's such opposite of me that there's times where I feel very dysregulated around him, but he's working on it. He's getting better at it. He's starting to understand a little bit more how to be less loud. I don't know how any other way to put it, but he's trying. Let me just put it that way. He's trying. And when I see him putting in that effort, it makes me feel happy. But it also kind of makes me feel guilty, because I wish he didn't have to like work so hard just to keep me regulated or help me to stay regulated. But that's just how it is. I can't help it. I can't help who I am. And, now that I'm not really able to mask much anymore, and my autism is really coming out and starting to show, and I can't hide it anymore, he's really seeing it. And I don't know where I'm going with all this. I don't know why. Oh, I was telling you about the Hoover Dam, and I was telling you about how I got overwhelmed and I couldn't talk. And so that's because I was telling you about lately I've been overwhelmed, and making videos have been very difficult for me because just talking. See, I was just talking to you with a purpose. I was telling you something. I had something in my head direct to tell you. And I did okay, I think. But if I were to just start the video not knowing what I was going to talk about, there's no way I could come up with something to just pull out of my head and talk about. I have to like really think about it and really plan if I'm going to make like a freestyle video. So that's why I like to read on my channel. I like to read the Bible, and I'm bringing this book to the channel because it's easier for me to speak when I'm either reading or telling a story of some sort. So anyway, with all that being said, after 9 minutes, let me get started. Code 6. Okay, the warrior harnesses their strength. Let me make sure I can see the words. The warrior knows their power. I'm just going to warn you, not in a bad way, but we're going to read something so mind-blowing, something that I never knew could actually happen. And I need somebody to comment below after this video and let me know if they've heard of this phenomenon that we're about to read about. Okay, the warrior knows their power. Even in defeat, the warrior is never powerless. Even when they are weak, the warrior knows their true strength. The warrior has a fire within that always burns brightly even in the darkest moments. Yet the warrior knows that the fire burns only if there is more wood to be consumed. The warrior understands the relationship between wood and fire and knows that the soul is a fire that must be fed to burn brightly. The warrior has learned how to harness their strength, focus their power, and replenish their energy. It is in this practice that the warrior becomes like a force of nature. The warrior always feels the fire of their soul. To survive a long winter, the warrior goes out morning by morning to secure enough wood to keep the fires burning within their shelter. They understand that the fire is life. If the fire goes out, the cold will overtake them, but wood keeps the fire burning. The warrior is the one who must feed the fire. There are some questions you must answer. What is it that feeds the fire within you? What is it that feeds your soul? What is the wood that you must work hard to gather to ensure that your fire does not go out? I asked my husband this. I said, "What's the wood to your fire?" And he said, Steelers. He loves the Steelers, the Pittsburgh Steelers. I'm telling you, he would miss a funeral of a loved one if a Steelers game was on, and I am not kidding you. He would. He said, Steelers and family. I said, "The Steelers is the wood to your fire?" He's like, "Yep." And he did not hesitate. For me, it's family and nature. Nature, if I'm around lakes and trees and fresh air and clean water, and I can smell the earth and smell the leaves on the trees, and I'm just one with nature, that's my wood to my fire. I'm curious to know what your wood to your fire is. Comment below. I double dog dare you to be the first one to comment on these videos. The wood is not the same for everyone, though there are certain things that fuel us all. You will know the wood of your soul when the fire diminishes in its absence, and when your fire intensifies in its presence. To identify your wood, the fuel to your fire, you must be mindful of what makes you feel most fully alive. What is it that ignites your passions? What are the moments in which you feel most energized? The warrior finds their greatest strength when they love to live and live to love. Love is the warrior's greatest strength. When we love our lives, we are inspired, encouraged, and energized to face even life's greatest challenges. To find your strength, you must know the source of your power and recognize where your energy comes from. At our most basic level, humans are energy wrapped up in skin. We were not designed for lethargy, we were not made for apathy, and we were certainly not created for mediocrity. The warrior knows how to harness their energy and replenish it for the next great battle ahead. I live in a city where people don't talk a lot about God, but instead talk a lot about energy. In fact, the use of the word energy here in Los Angeles has almost become a cliche. I cannot tell you how many times I have had people, usually from the entertainment industry, come up to me and open with, "I love your energy." My wife, who grew up in the mountains of North Carolina, hates everything about the language of energy. I think it frustrates her that people give credit to an inanimate force rather than a personal creator. But for me, energy has been a point of my focus for nearly 40 years. Although there may be individuals who use the word energy in trite or in empty ways, there is an entirely new wellness industry that has come to understand it as a source of health, healing, and strength. Some of my interest in energy has been very personal. Okay, here we go. This is the phenomenon that we're going to talk about that I never knew about. It's wild. Get ready, buckle up. Many years ago, my mom bought me my first nice watch. It was an elegant but simple Gucci timepiece. I remember feeling that the gift was so extravagant. Looking back now, though, I realize it cost a few $100s, but at that time in my life, that was a month's rent. It was only a few weeks after I had the watch and had worn it proudly every day that it stopped ticking. This watch was supposed to be of the highest quality, and suddenly I found it less reliable than a $10 drugstore watch. I was both surprised and frustrated. So I took the timepiece to a watch repair shop. The employees checked the battery and there was nothing wrong with it. In fact, when they went to work on the watch, it was running just fine. Of course, they changed the battery anyway. They had to charge me for something. I left a little bit confused, but I was also happy that my watch was not defective. A week or two later, it stopped running again. So I repeated the process. I took my watch back to the shop. They checked the battery and changed it even though it was fine. The watch worked perfectly until, of course, I wore it for another week or two. It was then that I began to entertain a bizarre concept. Perhaps the problem was not the watch, but me. So I began to test the theory. I would wear the watch for a few days and it would stop. I would put it in one of my drawers and then a few days later, it would be working perfectly again. After a few days of watching it keep time perfectly on the top of my dresser, I would wear it again and it would stop. I finally confirmed my theory by buying a second watch. To my surprise, the second watch had the same reaction as the first. After I wore it a few days, it stopped keeping time. So I began to alternate watches, and when one stopped, I switched to the other. I began to research widely and discovered that although it's rare, listen up, although it's rare, there are a handful of people around the world who cannot wear watches. Why? Because every watch they try dies. This phenomenon, as weird as it sounds, is due to the high electrical currents in some people's bodies. Did you know about this? Depending on the level of electrical currents in your body, or if you have been exposed to high volumes of electricity, you can literally interfere with the inner workings inside your watch. It sounds kind of insane that one of the top 5 reasons for why a watch has stopped is that certain human beings emit high electrical currents. I couldn't believe this except that it happens to me every single time. I wouldn't believe this except it happens to me every single time. I can share with you only my personal experience. For years, I was unable to wear a watch more than a few days at a time. On the upside, it launched me into my hobby of collecting watches. This way, I always have a working watch to bring into rotation. At one point in my life, I found myself having the same experience with our old school computers. It is not insignificant that a human being can carry so much energy that it can literally shut down a computer. The most frustrating aspect of this is how often the security alarms at airports go off when I walk through the metal detectors. Since 2001, my traveling handle has been random search. On one of my more recent trips, I asked the TSA agent, why is it that the alarms constantly go off when I go through? He explained that they are set to identify higher electrical frequencies, and if you happen to have a higher electrical frequency, you set it off. All this is to explain why I have such a fascination with energy on a personal level, and why, even when the language of energy has not been commonly used in conversations of our faith journey, it's more important than you know. You simply don't have energy. You are energy. And I'm going to stop there because I'm already at 20 minutes. But that is crazy. I had no idea that the electrical currents inside of our bodies would be enough to stop a watch that we wear on our wrist or set off security at the airport. I had no clue. Let me know if you knew about this. I'm 47 years old and I never knew that could happen. I didn't know that was a thing. When I read this, because I kind of read what we were going to read today before I made this video, and I was just blown away. It's like, this is crazy. Like, but it's true. We don't, what did he say at the very end? It's so true. You don't simply have energy. We are energy. We are. So with that being said, I'll let you go. I don't want to keep you too long. But in our next video, or our next read, we are going to read about Albert Einstein's theory. And that one tripped me up a little bit with my speech, because some of the words I couldn't, my brain would not pronunciate verbally. So I had a little bit of an issue with this next read. But we are going to read about, he's right now, he's talking about energies, is what he's talking about right now. And because this chapter that we're reading, the warrior harnesses their strength. And I'm pretty sure when he's talking about our strength, he's talking about the fact that we are energy. That's strength. And we're harnessing our energy. So, harnessing ourselves, rather. Okay, so stay tuned for the next read, and we'll continue on reading about harnessing our strength, okay? So I love you. You all have a great night, and I am going to go and continue on with my Netflix series that I've recently developed a strong interest in. I don't know if you've ever watched Virgin River, but I started watching it when the last time I was here watching the dog, and I was hooked after like the third episode, and it's become one of my special interests. That and Young Sheldon. Okay, real quick before I let you go, I'll tell you some of the shows I watch on repeat. Like, my husband laughs at me, but I can't help it. It brings me comfort. Young Sheldon, I watch season 1 through I forgot how many seasons there are, 12 in Young Sheldon. I can't remember, but I watch all the way through. I start right back to season 1, go all the way through, go right back to season 1, and it's just constantly revolving Young Sheldon in my house, or in my travel trailer rather. And I also, like I said, developed a strong interest in the Virgin River that series on Netflix, Virgin River. And I not lately have watched this, but Heart of Dixie. It's on Amazon Prime. That I also have on repeat. But it's been a while since I've watched that. In fact, I'm kind of getting a hankering for wanting to watch that again. Because Virgin River kind of, sort of, there's the same actor in Virgin River that there is in the Heart of Dixie. So it kind of got me. But I feel like it's probably produced by the same person, both those shows, because they seem kind of similar in certain ways. Not in all ways, but I do see some similarities. But anyway, I'll stop rambling and let you go. So take care, keep praying for others, and stay strong in your faith, and I will see you next time on the next video. Love you.